Back in 2017, Robert Miller almost lost his son for the first time on an ordinary service call. It was supposed to be nothing serious, a water heater replacement in a private home on the edge of Cleveland. Kevin had talked his way into helping, even though Robert kept trying to wave him off. "Kev, step back and don't get under my hands," Robert said. "That old heater remembers the Clinton administration. The seams are holding on by pure stubbornness. I'll cut it loose carefully myself, because if it blows, it won't be pretty." "Dad, come on," Kevin said. "Why are you treating me like a first grader? I've been handing you tools since I was 14. I can tell a valve gasket from a pipe fitting." "You can tell the difference," Robert replied. "Your eyes are fine, but that thing is twice your age, and its temper has only gotten worse over the years. It's just waiting for the right second to give somebody a surprise." Kevin didn't listen. During the teardown, the tank split along a welded seam and boiling water poured over his right forearm and hand. Second and third degree burns, skin grafts, 4 months of rehab. His arm bent, but it never straightened all the way again. Scar tissue pulled tight across his forearm. Kevin taught himself to do almost everything left-handed. He took out keys, opened doors, carried bags, and kept his right arm tucked close to his body, hidden under long sleeves, even in the summer. Robert knew every movement of that injured arm by heart. He had spent 35 years as a plumber and HVAC repairman, and still he hadn't protected his own son. Life rolled crooked after that, but it kept rolling. Kevin married Ashley. Their son, Noah, was born. Then came the oil field job in North Dakota, assistant driller on a rotational crew, 2 months on, 2 months off. Before he left, Kevin had piled up nearly $50,000 in debt. Payday lenders, online loan apps, a few former coworkers who had trusted him too much. Part of the money had gone into shady investment schemes that collapsed in a matter of weeks. His old high school friend Ryan Clark drove him to the bus station. "I'll get it handled in a year," Kevin said, forcing a heavy duffel bag into the trunk. A year for sure. Worst case, a year and a half. The money up north is nothing like what we make around here. "I'm tired of busting my knuckles for pocket change." "Don't joke with me about this," Ryan said. "Did you at least tell Ashley about all those loans and schemes?" "Ryan, don't start. You sound like my late grandmother when she was scolding me. Why fill Ashley's head with it and wreck her nerves? I'll come back with money and quietly close everything out. She won't even blink before we're ahead." Promises always came more easily to Kevin than keeping them. On March 15th, 2020, Robert's landline rang. A man's voice, measured and distant in the way officials sound when they have said terrible things too many times, introduced himself as a workplace safety inspector. There had been an accident on the rig, an explosion at the wellhead. Kevin Miller had suffered injuries incompatible with life. The body was badly damaged. Identification had been made through documents and personal effects. Cremation would be handled in the nearest town. A week later, a courier delivered a packet, a death certificate, a report, workplace accident forms, and a sealed wooden keepsake box. When Linda Miller heard the news, she lowered herself into a kitchen chair and made a sound Robert remembered for the rest of his life. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't crying. It was something dull and broken, as if something inside her had simply snapped. They placed the box in the living room beside Kevin's old Army photo. Every evening, Linda took it in her hands, stroked the lid, and talked to her son. She told him about Noah. She whispered that she missed him. Nobody had seen the body. Nobody had flown out to identify him. Later, Robert would say to himself, "Who stages his own death? Normal people don't do that." Grief destroyed Linda in 6 months. She stopped eating. She barely slept. She lost more than 30 pounds. On September 15th, Robert came home from a service call and found her on the kitchen floor. The left side of her face had fallen. Her words came out thick and tangled. A stroke. 3 days later, she died in intensive care. The last thing she managed to say was that Robert should tell Kevin she loved him and that she forgave him. On October 3rd, Ashley came to Robert dressed in black, holding 3-year-old Noah by the hand. She brought bank printouts and collector notices. Nearly $50,000. Mr. Miller, I understand, she said. You don't have room for this right now, and believe me, I'm not doing any better, but the banks and those loan people won't wait. They call from morning till night. They've already threatened to come, take everything out of the apartment. I'm alone here with Noah. Daycare is still just a dream for us. I physically can't go back to work right now. And what's the total with all the interest? Robert asked. About $50,000. I counted everything. If we could pay at least $1,000 a month, maybe they'd back off. That's 50 months of bondage, Robert said. More than 4 years. Thank you so much, Mr. Miller. Kevin would, if he knew how much you were helping us. Don't, Robert said. Not Kevin. Please don't say his name right now. Noah sat on the floor, rolling a toy car over the rug and making engine sounds with his lips. The boy had his father's stubborn forehead and Linda's eyes. Robert looked at his grandson and thought that in the last 2 weeks, he had buried his wife and his son, and now he was being handed a payment schedule. 50 months? He said. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Kevin would. No, don't. Not Kevin. That was how a 4-year cycle began. Every month, Robert climbed to the 4th floor of an old 5-story walk-up with no elevator and handed over an envelope. $1,000 earned by repairing water heaters and boilers at 65 years old, with aching knees and a lower back that never stopped throbbing. His Social Security check was about $1,650. The rest came from side jobs, 3 or 4 calls a week. Some months, during the last week before his next check, he ate pasta with oil because there was nothing else left. On November 1st, 2024, Robert climbed the familiar stairs carrying the 49th envelope, the second to last payment. Every step answered in his knees with a dull, dragging pain. He rang the bell. Ashley opened the door on the chain. Her face was closed off, her hair pulled back into a tight ponytail. You're 20 minutes later than usual, she said. I was starting to think something happened. Traffic was dead on Maple Avenue, Robert said. Accident over there. I barely got through. How's Noah doing? He's fine. Mr. Miller, I asked you before. Please don't come without calling first. It throws the child off. You get him too worked up with your visits. Ashley, for heaven's sake. I'm not a clown with a brass band. I just brought the money. The boy is 7 now. Is his own grandfather really such a stress trigger? Yes. Then I have to calm him down. We have a strict routine, and we shouldn't disrupt it. She snatched the envelope through the crack and shut the door. Robert stood on the landing, listening to his heavy breathing echo through the stairwell. He started down, then stopped on the 3rd step. From behind Ashley's door came a man's voice, deep, relaxed, domestic. In 35 years of working inside other people's homes, Robert could tell live speech from a television without thinking. A television had a different rhythm. Human pauses were uneven. The tone shifted. Someone in that apartment was talking like he belonged there. That night, Robert sat in his armchair across from Linda's photograph. It had been taken at Noah's 3rd birthday, the last party she had ever attended. Linda was laughing, silver in her hair catching the sun. Well, Linda, he said softly, the 49th one is done. One more push and I'm free with clean conscience. 4 years I've been walking those envelopes over there like a mailman on the longest route in town. Only nobody gave me a bike, and even the stray cat never stuck around here. He rubbed his face. You'd tell me I'm an old stubborn donkey looking for trouble where there isn't any. You'd say I should sit down with Ashley, talk honestly, put everything on the table. And you know what? You'd probably be right, like always. You had a sense for people, not like me. He put the photograph back in its place. As usual, the photograph did not argue. He couldn't sleep. The voice behind the door wouldn't leave him alone. The next morning, he drove to a client, Zoe Parker, who lived in an older neighborhood near the edge of town. Her water heater was leaking. The job was just a gasket replacement. $180 for labor. Robert, where are you rushing off to? Zoe asked. At least have some hot tea. I baked a cabbage pie this morning, and it's still warm. I was saving a piece for you. Thank you, Zoe, truly, but I'm booked tight today. My next customer is probably already watching the clock. Just remember one thing. Don't yank the hot water tap open hard for the next 24 hours. Give the gasket time to settle in properly. Oh, and what if it starts dripping again? I'll have a flood on my hands. Don't worry. If anything happens, call me right away and I'll come back. But I give you my honest word as a repairman, that thing has another 10 years in it. Just don't twist the valve like you're turning the wheel of a submarine in an emergency. Zoe laughed and still slipped a wrapped piece of pie into his tool bag. When Robert returned to Ashley's building to pick up a tool case he had left in the stairwell, he ran into Gary Reynolds in the courtyard. Gary lived on the 3rd floor. He was 62, a retired truck driver who lived alone. 30 years of night routes had ruined his sleep. He napped in pieces and smoked on the landing at 2 or 3 in the morning. Gary started without a preface. Years on the road had taught him not to waste time circling a subject. Robert, hold up a minute. Listen to my advice. Stop carrying money to your daughter-in-law. Put in a hidden camera or at least one of those digital peepholes. Then you will understand for yourself. What are you getting at, Gary? Why talk in riddles? What riddles? Night before last, around 2, I was smoking between floors. Insomnia had me by the throat again. I saw some guy heading upstairs. He had a bag in his left hand, and his right arm was pressed to his chest like it didn't belong to him. No extra movements, no gestures. He took the keys out with his left hand too, opened Ashley's door calmly with his own key, didn't knock, walked in like he was coming home after a shift. Plenty of people come and go. Maybe a repairman or emergency maintenance. Sure, a repairman with his own keys at 2 in the morning. Robert, don't insult my gray hair. I've lived in this building 15 years, and I saw Kevin nearly every day before he left. His right arm hung exactly like that after the burn. Remember, he did everything with his left. Gary, you can decide I'm a senile old fool. That's your business. But I spent 30 years behind the wheel of a semi, and I learned to read people by their walk and their habits before I ever saw their faces on the highway. That can save your life. I'm telling you, that movement was the same down to the inch. Do you even understand what you just said? I understand perfectly. That's why I'm telling you, so you don't stay blind. Robert stood silent, stunned by what he had heard, while a small, nasty tremor ran through his fingers. Everything he had forced himself to believe for 4 years began crumbling into dust right there in the cold wind. Oh, and Robert, Gary added, turning back from the entrance. The condo association put a camera between the 3rd and 4th floors about 6 months ago, after somebody started breaking into mailboxes. They keep the recordings for 6 months. Good hard drive. Keep that in mind. Robert bent down for his tool case and froze. For the first time in 4 years, a thought stirred inside him that took his breath away. A thought he still did not dare finish. Robert wandered around his house, moving things from one place to another and finding no task that would settle him. At last, he dialed a number he had not called in 6 months. Walter Brooks answered on the third ring. "Robert, you have a schedule," Walter said. "You either invite me for coffee every 6 months or call me every 5 years when the whole house is on fire. Judging by the way you're breathing into the phone, I'm guessing we have a fire." "We have a fire, Walt. I need help. This isn't for the phone. Come over and bring something for coffee because all I've got in the pantry is crackers, and even those look government-issued." An hour later, Robert sat in Walter's cramped kitchen, surrounded by books and shoeboxes where the former detective kept his old files. 25 years in criminal investigations had left Walter with bad eyesight, a bad back, and the habit of breaking every story into facts, theories, and evidence. They had been friends since 8th grade, same school, same street. Robert had gone to trade school to become a repairman. Walter had joined the police academy. They had stayed close all their lives, even if they did not see each other often. Coffee once a month, small favors, silence instead of unnecessary words. Robert told him everything: the envelopes, the voice behind the door, Gary, and the injured arm. Walter listened without interrupting. Then he pulled a small notebook from a drawer, its pages filled with tiny handwriting. "A camera in the stairwell, you said? Recordings kept for 6 months. Fine, I'll get them. I've still got a person at the management company. He owes me for fixing his boiler for the rest of his natural life." "You've never fixed a boiler in your life?" "No, but I'm excellent at looking like I'm helping. Let's stay on point. We need the night from November 1st into November 2nd. If your neighbor isn't imagining things, our guy left tracks." By Sunday evening, a flash drive with the recordings lay on Walter's kitchen table. He plugged it into his laptop, wiped the screen with his sleeve, and put on glasses that sat crooked because one arm had been wrapped with electrical tape. The video was black and white and grainy. The landing between the 3rd and 4th floors. November 2nd, 2:47 in the morning. A man of medium height appeared in a dark jacket and cap. The hood was up and his face could not be seen, but the main thing was clear. His right arm was pressed motionless against his body. A bag hung from his left hand. He approached the door, reached into his left pocket with his left hand, took out a key, and opened the lock. 8 seconds from the stairs to the door. No bell. No knock. They watched it 3 times. Walter rewound to October, 2:10 in the morning. The same figure, the same arm, the same key. September, 1:55. August. Every time it was the night after a payment, sometime between 1 and 3 in the morning. Every time he left around 5. Walter played the clip for the 4th time, narrowed his eyes, then took off his glasses and wiped them with the edge of his t-shirt. "Well?" Robert asked. "Do you see it?" "Robert, I spent 25 years catching crooks with eyesight bad enough to make eye doctors cry. Of course I see it. Let me just pull the screen closer before the pixels start square dancing." He dragged the laptop until it was inches from his face. The glow reflected in his lenses as 2 pale rectangles. "Now I see it," he said, "and I wish I didn't. That isn't just a sore arm. That's compensation. The right one hangs, the left one works for 2, and his head tilts slightly when he walks. People move like that after serious burns, when scar tissue has pulled the muscle tight. 2 different men cannot copy that walk exactly." "It's Kevin," Robert said. The words did not sound like a guess. "It's my son," Walter did not argue. He closed the laptop, folded his hands on top of it, and looked at his friend the way people look when good news turns out to be worse than bad news. On Tuesday, Robert picked Noah up from school under the excuse of taking him for a walk, after warning Ashley ahead of time. While he took his grandson to get a snack at the little cafe across from the school, Walter took up a position across from Ashley's building. Noah ate a pancake with jam, smearing the filling across the plate, and told Robert about the class hamster with the seriousness of a child reporting on national security. Grandpa, on the papers his name is Biscuit, but we call him Biss because he's tiny and super fast. So Mrs. Martinez wanted to show us how he stuffs his cheeks, and Biss went zip right through the gap. He ran across the desk and fell straight into the teacher's bag. She reached in for a pen and pulled out a hamster by the scruff. Robert smiled. Biz got scared and jumped onto the gradebook. Tyler tried to catch him and knocked over a cup of water with his elbow. The whole page got soaked. Mrs. Martinez was yelling. Biss was sitting there twitching his whiskers. The whole class was laughing, and she said, "There is nothing funny about this." "And how did it end?" Robert asked. "We caught him. He fell asleep under the cabinet. Tyler got a note sent home, and the hamster got nothing." "That's not fair, Grandpa. Say it's not fair." Robert laughed, and the laugh was real despite everything. Then Noah went quiet. He crumbled the edge of his pancake and asked without looking up, "Grandpa, does Dad really watch us from up there? Mom says he was a hero and saved people." Robert carefully laid his palm on his grandson's hair. "Your dad loved you very much." It was a lie told to protect a child. Meanwhile, Walter photographed Ashley at a cafe 3 blocks from home. She sat at a corner table with a man in a gray sweater, short hair, broad shoulders, one hand resting on top of hers. That evening, Robert zoomed in on the picture and recognized Ryan Clark, Kevin's old high school friend, the one who had driven him to the bus station before the oil field job. Their posture at the table left no room for doubt. On Wednesday, through old contacts in bank security, Walter got 4 years of Ashley's account activity. He laid the printouts across the kitchen table the way he had once laid out case reports, running a finger along the lines. "Look at the numbers," Walter said. "Her expenses are close to $1,800 a month. Rent, food, school, everything else. Officially, she's unemployed. Your $1,000 would barely cover the bills. So where did the rest come from?" "From here." He tapped the page. Starting in October of 2020, she started receiving a steady $2,000 a month, paid by a Shell LLC registered in Delaware. Classic paper company with a nobody listed as manager. And the money started landing right when you began your envelopes. "So my money was just pocket money for them," Robert said. "Insurance," Walter said, "so you'd feel guilty, stay busy and not ask questions. You worked yourself down to the bone for 4 years, eating plain pasta at the end of the month." And they were laughing about it. Beautifully done in the ugliest way. Robert was silent for a long time. Then he asked, "Should I bring the box?" The keepsake box with Kevin's supposed personal effects had stood for 4 years on the living room shelf beside his army photograph. Walter put on thin gloves, took a screwdriver, and worked at the lid. It had been sealed around the edge with epoxy so it would look official. Inside, on a soft cloth, lay a cheap wristwatch with a plastic band. No engraving. Kevin had worn a mechanical watch Robert had given him for his 30th birthday. There was a gold-colored ring, 2 sizes too big, and upon closer inspection, it was costume jewelry. There was also a ring of keys from unknown locks. Walter turned the watch in his hands and squinted. Well, whoever decorated this scene wasn't exactly a professional. Cheap quartz watch from a flea market. worth maybe $10 on a good day. The ring isn't even gold-plated, painted brass. And these keys could be from a mailbox in Cincinnati for all I know. I saw plenty of sloppy evidence work in my years, Robert, but this is the bottom of the barrel. If my suspects had planted evidence this badly, I would have let them go out of pity. Robert did not laugh. He lowered himself to the floor, his back against the couch, in the same spot where Linda had sat every evening. She had held that box on her knees, stroked the lid, whispered her son's name, and told him about Noah. And inside there had been a flea market watch and a brass ring that wouldn't have fit Kevin's smallest finger. "What kind of person can do that?" Robert asked. Walter had no answer. On Thursday evening, they sat in Walter's battered old Toyota, following Ryan's dark SUV while keeping 3 car lengths back. Robert sat in the passenger seat with a thermos and a bag of sandwiches on his lap. Supplies Walter had prepared for the operation. 25 years on the force, Walter said, without taking his eyes off the road. And here's the grand finale. A retired man in an old Toyota, tailing his friend's daughter-in-law, armed with a bologna sandwich. Career peak, no question. At least the sandwich is decent. That is the one thing reconciling me with reality. They drove 30 miles along a dark state highway. Ryan turned into an old row of storage garages on the outskirts, past a brick wall and under weak yellow lights. He drove to the far row and knocked on a metal door. 3 slow knocks. The door opened from inside. In the opening stood a man with long, uncombed hair, a thick beard, and a gray hoodie. He looked older, hollowed out, but Robert recognized him instantly by the way he stood with his weight on his left leg, his right arm tight against his body, and that slight tilt of the head when he spoke. Through binoculars, Robert could make out the sunken cheeks and the line of the jaw he had known since birth. Kevin slapped Ryan on the shoulder with his left hand, and both men disappeared inside. Robert lowered the binoculars. "It's him." Walter nodded, squeezed his shoulder hard, and whispered, "Don't rush. We need a recording." They slipped into the empty unit next door. The walls were thin metal, and the voices came through clearly, almost as if the men were in the same room. Walter turned on his recorder. "Your dad brought it again," Ryan said, relaxed and satisfied. "The 1,000?" Kevin replied. "Like clockwork. 1 month left. In December I get the last payment, and that's it. I'm done. I'll go to Costa Rica, or maybe Panama, somewhere warm." "What about Ashley?" "Ashley will be fine. She's a smart woman. She'll figure things out." "And Noah?" A pause. The click of a lighter. "Noah's little. He'll get used to it. Kids forget fast. Kevin, your father is breaking his back on service calls for that money. He's almost 70. He's running up and down stairs on bad knees. Nobody forced him. He decided to pay. Let him pay. Those thousands are small money to us, Ryan. At least he's occupied. He doesn't poke around, doesn't ask questions. You could say we gave the old man an active retirement." There was a long silence. Then Ryan asked more quietly, "And your mother? Do you understand what happened to Linda?" The pause stretched so long that Robert wondered if he had missed the answer. Then Kevin spoke, and there was nothing in his voice. No remorse, no bitterness, just a flat statement like a weather report. "I didn't think it would turn out that way. That wasn't part of the plan." Then he added, "If that makes me a bastard, fine. At least I'm alive, unlike the people who honestly laid down in the ground." Walter managed to grab Robert by the elbow, but Robert had already yanked open the rusty door of the neighboring unit and stepped out toward Kevin's garage. He knocked 3 times in the same rhythm Ryan had used, then pushed the door open. A work light on a cord swung from the ceiling, throwing torn shadows over a cot, a hot plate, and cans of food lined along the wall. a life squeezed into a 10 by 20-foot metal box. Kevin stood in the middle of the garage with a mug in his left hand. His right arm was pressed to his body as always. When he saw his father, the color drained from his face all at once. "Dad, don't start." Robert stepped inside, and his voice was so cold that Ryan, who had half risen from a stool, sat back down. "Your mother died believing until her last breath that you were in the ground. Every evening, do you hear me? Every evening, she talked to that box. And inside it were old market watches and a ring that wouldn't even fit your little finger. Do you understand what you did to her? I didn't think she'd take it like that. I didn't think. My grandson looks out the window every night and waves to his dad in heaven. And it turns out his dad is 30 miles from home drinking tea in a metal box. You set yourself up nicely. Dad, you don't understand. I got into debt with people you don't just walk away from. If I hadn't disappeared, they would have come after Ashley, after Noah. I was protecting them. Do not hide behind Noah." Robert slammed his palm against the metal wall, and the whole garage rang. "I carried envelopes to the 4th floor for 4 years. On knees that barely straighten anymore, with hands that can hardly hold a wrench some mornings. $50,000 earned on valves and gaskets. And to you it was small money, pocket change to keep the old man from asking questions. I heard everything, Kevin. Every word." Kevin set the mug on the hot plate. His hands were shaking, both of them, even the damaged one. "The son I raised died the day you staged that show," Robert said. "The boy whose arm I failed to protect once, the boy I taught to work on boilers, he's gone. You're just a stranger," wearing his face. He turned and walked out. Behind him, Kevin said something, called to him. But the garage door was already closing. In the car, Walter said nothing until they were back on the highway. Then he spoke quietly, eyes on the road. "I had a son too, Max." This was 7 years ago. He had just turned 28, got into debt with guys who didn't have a sense of humor in any known form. He called me and asked for $10,000, urgent, right now. And I decided it was time for a life lesson. I told him, "Come tomorrow. We'll sit down, make a plan, talk everything through." Walter swallowed. He didn't come tomorrow. 2 days later, they pulled his car out of the river. They wrote it up as losing control behind the wheel. But there wasn't a clean spot on his ribs, even though the case closed fast. Walt, I could have given him that money the same night. Wouldn't have ruined me. But I decided tomorrow would be more appropriate. Turns out tomorrow isn't guaranteed. So I understand you better than most, and I'm helping you because I'm not just bored in retirement. After that, they drove in silence, the highway lights flashing evenly across the windshield. On Friday, Walter called with only a few words. "I've got Ryan's messages." When Robert saw the screenshot on the phone, his throat tightened. Ashley had written on November 10th, 2 months left. "Then we collect everything and leave. Kevin won't understand a thing." Ryan had replied a week earlier. "Crypto wallet is ready. Conversion is on schedule after the last payment. Cash out and close." The photos completed the picture. Hugs, a kiss on the street, visits together to a rented apartment. "They're going to cheat Kevin too," Walter said. "And Noah." There was a hotel booking in San Jose, Costa Rica, in Ashley and Ryan's names. Arrival on Monday. 2 passports. Nothing for Kevin, nothing for Noah. "All the money," Walter said. "Your $50,000. The $24,000 Kevin already hid in crypto. Ryan has the keys to all of it." 3 days, Robert said. He locked his fingers together. "We have 3 days to shut this down." On Saturday evening, Robert stood in front of the storage garage again, and knocking was harder than it had been the first time. Kevin opened the door. He was pale, with hollow eyes, as if he had not slept in 2 days. Robert silently held out the phone with the photos. Kevin scrolled slowly. Ashley and Ryan embracing, kissing, entering a building together. The messages, the reservation, 2 passports with no name but theirs. "She's with Ryan," Kevin said. His voice was dull and crushed. "With him. With your best friend. They're about to cash everything out and fly into the sunset. Your money is in their wallet too, and they won't let you anywhere near it. To them, you're just a convenient cover, Kevin. One whose expiration date has already passed." Kevin sat on the cot and stared at the concrete floor for a long time. Then he looked up, and there was no anger in his eyes, no wounded pride. Only the confusion of a child who has discovered that the rules of the game were never written by him. "I won't forgive you for your mother," Robert said, "or for these years of lies. But right now we're in the same boat, even if it's full of holes. They leave Monday. We have 1 day. What do you need from me? You're coming with me to the police. You'll write down everything exactly as it happened." Kevin nodded. They spent all Sunday in Attorney Benjamin Harper's office, laying out evidence. The stairwell camera footage, the audio recording from the garage, the surveillance photos, the bank statements, the screenshots of messages, and Kevin's confession. Detective Mark O'Connor studied the materials for 2 hours. Then he raised his head and said, "This is enough. We'll coordinate with state police and federal airport contacts in case they try to move earlier. We start tomorrow morning." Monday, November 18th, 7:10 in the morning. Robert sat in the passenger seat of Walter's Toyota in an alley across from Ashley's building. Walter was behind the wheel. Kevin sat in the back, silent since dawn. Plainclothes officers waited inside the building. At 7:20, Ashley and Ryan came out. She wore a jacket and a backpack, her hair tied back, her face relaxed. Ryan dragged 2 large suitcases toward a parked car. They were laughing. They loaded the trunk, got in, and the engine started. At once, 2 unmarked vehicles blocked the road. Detective O'Connor showed his badge through the window. "Ashley Miller, Ryan Clark, you'll need to step out. You're being detained on suspicion of major fraud." Ryan jerked toward the passenger door. Officers caught him and pinned him to the pavement. Ashley started talking immediately, choking on the words. This was all Kevin. It was his idea. He set everything up. He faked his death. "I only did what he told me. I had nothing to do with it." Then she saw Robert step out of the Toyota. Kevin followed him. "You," she whispered, "you were supposed to be at the garage. How did you get here?" "Ashley," Robert said, stepping close. "You thought you were smarter than everyone. You used me, my son, and your own child. Noah won't forgive you for that. And I don't abandon my own, so I'm going to protect him from you." They led her away in handcuffs. Inside the suitcases, officers found clothes, documents, and a USB drive containing the seed phrase for the crypto wallet. The trial took place in February. Judge Margaret Price read the sentences. Ashley Miller received 7 years in state prison and restitution of $73,000 from confiscated funds. Ryan Clark received 5 years and joint financial liability. Kevin Miller received 4 years in a minimum security facility, with the possibility of parole after 2 because the court considered his full confession and cooperation. Evan Foster, the workplace safety inspector, received a 2-year suspended sentence for aiding the fraud and falsifying documents. In the hallway after sentencing, Kevin asked for 1 minute. Robert sent Noah to wait on a bench with Walter. "Dad," Kevin said. He stood in handcuffs, his voice hoarse from holding back tears. "Forgive me, for Mom, for Noah, for everything." "I forgive you," Robert said, "because spending my strength on hatred would mean taking it away from Noah. But forgiveness doesn't erase what you did. You'll serve your time. You'll come out. Then you can try to start over. Will you bring Noah to see me? We'll see when you get out and prove you changed in more than words. The corrections officer touched Kevin's shoulder. Kevin nodded, turned, and walked down the corridor without looking back. His right arm was still pressed to his body. The cryptocurrency was seized by court order. Robert received restitution, $73,000. He sat at the kitchen table with a calculator. Part of it would go toward repairing the house. The roof leaked. The pipes had needed replacing for years. A large share would go into an account for Noah, locked until he turned 18. The rest would stay untouched as an emergency reserve. In the garage where Robert had stored tools for 35 years, he cleared the workbench and hung a new lamp. Noah stood beside him, peeking into the wrench drawer. "Grandpa, are you really going to teach me all of this?" "Absolutely. One day, all this will be yours. But we have one deal. You never put your hands where hot water can reach them. I already paid for that lesson once." "We're not repeating it." Noah laughed. He did not fully understand, but he felt that his grandfather could be trusted. On Sunday, they drove to the cemetery. Robert laid daisies on Linda's grave. She had loved them more than any other flower. Simple, wild, without pretension. "Well, Linda," he said, "that's it. We brought justice home. Noah is all right. I did everything I promised." "Grandpa," Noah said, kneeling beside him, "is Grandma proud of us?" "I think she's very proud of you, champ." That evening, after tucking Noah into bed, Robert was already leaving the room when a small voice came from under the blanket. "Grandpa, what's the most important thing in life?" Robert stopped in the doorway. He thought about Linda, about Kevin, and about everything these 4 years had taken from him. "The most important thing is to love honestly," he said. "To forgive when a person truly understands what they've done. And to protect the ones who can't protect themselves yet." Noah smiled and closed his eyes. Robert stood in the doorway, listening as his grandson's breathing settled into sleep. For the first time in 4 years, he felt peace. A quiet certainty that the worst was behind him, and that there was still a life ahead worth living for the boy asleep in the next room. And now, I'd love to hear from you. What would you have done in Robert's place? Could you forgive a betrayal like that, or would some wounds be too deep? Share your thoughts in the comments. Give this video a like if the story moved you, and subscribe to the channel with the bell on so you don't miss the next one.